Love and Light. This is Healthy Talk Show for Monday, April 1st, 2019. I'm Robert.
And I'm Marissa.
Healthy Talk Show streams live on Mondays at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 3 a.m. UTC over at healthytalkshow.com/live with podcast versions available soon after over at healthytalkshow.com/subscribe. We're on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, healthytalkshow.com/YouTube.
healthytalkshow.com/support if you'd like to help us support the show financially using PayPal or Patreon. It's value for value. If we provide you value, please provide some back in whatever form you feel. And yes, feedback is valuable. So rate us in iTunes, email us, or call and leave us a voicemail, 509-878-3229.
Show notes for this episode with the links of everything we talk about are located over at healthytalkshow.com/HTS14. That stands for the episode number 14. Show housekeeping. A fantastic supporter bought us 2 XLR cables. Thank you very much, supporter, for helping us relocate our audio setup a little bit here in the studio. We're trying to get it so I can stream and podcast by myself. Not necessarily that I need to, but just so we can, because you're running the audio stuff and I'm trying to get that burden off of you. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
You're a professional audio producer.
Definitely check out our Amazon wish list for other ways to help support us.
Yep, please do. Brexit. That was something that happened. The 27th, last Wednesday, Brexit. I left my career and took a step back and said, I need to figure out what I'm doing. Unlike Brexit actually happened.
Yeah.
Brexit did not happen. It was supposed to happen on the 29th, I think, of March.
Yeah. Brexit beat Brexit.
Yeah, Brexit actually happened and Brexit didn't. So that kind of sucks.
So,
yeah, if anyone's interested in collaborating, podcast or stream-wise, let us know.
Keep an eye out for maybe some other podcasts coming up.
Yes. The day after Brexit, that following Thursday, one day after, I met with our landlord, and he said, you got to be out by the end of May, dude. What? Really? So he wants us out. I'm going to counteroffer with the end of June, since they have not repaired anything ever at all. And we have a huge water leak from the rain, huge hole in our ceiling. It's really bad, so they need to give us at least until the end of June.
Yeah.
But that means we're moving.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
healthytalkshow.com/support.
Yes, please.
And
Please.
if you have any ideas where we should move, ask at healthytalkshow.com.
Yes. Somewhere that's friendly to podcasters. I don't know where that's at.
We'll figure it out.
All right. Are we ready?
Yep.
Headlines. It's going to be a long one. And you love this. Axios, the trouble with smart cities. TechCrunch, the taxing your privacy. So these two stories are about smart cities. And you don't know what a smart city is. It's basically these tech companies. Well, let's read the article. Giants like Alphabet, GE, Cisco are building tech that they claim can transform a city stuck in the past into a futuristic paradise. But their early projects have resulted in unelected companies making what typically are city hall decisions. The most common argument when privacy advocates bring up concerns around mobile data collection is that consumers always have the control to opt out. When governments utilize this data, however, that option is not always available. And the direct result is the monetization of a consumer's privacy in the form of taxes and tolls. In an era where states like California and others are stepping up as self-proclaimed defenders of citizen privacy and consent, this puts everyone in an awkward position. New York, LA, and Seattle are implementing or considering implementing congestion pricing that would ultimately rely on harvesting personal data in some form or another. Oregon, which passed the first gas tax in 1919, began its ORGO program 2 years ago, utilizing data that measured miles driven to levy fees on drivers so that address issues with roads and highways. Sorry.
Jeez.
I know. Craziness.
It's with crazy amounts of data.
Yes, being collected. Actually, in Toronto, Canada, those crazy Canadians, there's something called Sidewalk Labs, which is owned by Alphabet, and it's a smart city company giving the firm 12-acre piece of waterfront to develop however it saw fit in Ontario. Sidewalk Labs proposed broad data policies from neighborhood, assuming lawmaking authority typically exercised by the government. Protests have erupted since it revealed that Sidewalk Labs proposed taking a cut of property tax revenue for its redevelopment. Yeah. Sidewalk Labs argues that it's only seeking reimbursement for its proposed investments in public infrastructure.
I mean, this is pretty crazy that they're allowing these decisions to be made by private companies that do not have the interests of the people at heart necessarily.
Yes, and I pulled a clip from TV Ontario It's a Canadian publicly funded English language educational television station and media organization serving the Canadian province of Ontario. To talk about this a little bit, it's interesting. Let's take a look. Uh-oh.
Not just in the capital city. So let viewers all over the province of Ontario, not just in the capital city. So let's start there. What does Sidewalk Labs do?
So first of all, Sidewalk Labs is a unit of Alphabet, which is also the parent of Google. We're the much smaller parent subsidiary of Google. And our mission is to improve urban life by combining cutting-edge innovation with great urban design to really address some of the key issues that cities are wrestling with today, like how do we manage to afford to house people in a way that they can actually live? How do we move people around in new ways? How do we actually deal with the issue of climate change by creating truly sustainable communities? How do we create jobs and other economic opportunity where otherwise it might be hard? So
It's got a lot of questions.
Yeah, but I really don't see smart cities as the answer.
Yeah. Let's scale up. We have a problem with scaling. Let's just scale up and put more technology in. That'll help.
Yeah.
That'll save us. Sidewalk Labs got to make money.
Now, your company's a private company, right?
we are.
So you got to make money.
We do. I've said our primary mission is to demonstrate what's possible, truly create the first 21st century district. Yes, we do have to make money.
So
as
how do
well.
you make money?
Well, part of the way you make money
Good
is
question.
through real estate development. And we would develop a small portion of what we call the eastern waterfront, mostly to demonstrate what's possible. We have a whole series of hypotheses in terms of innovation and what it can actually do.
So vague.
We would also
Yeah.
probably hope to play a role in financing infrastructure to catalyze the development of an area that has basically been an underperformer, has not fulfilled the dreams and aspirations of many city builders before us for over 100 years. So to some extent play a role in that. And then some of the innovations that we actually develop here, we would hope over time to take to other places around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they didn't really answer the question. I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah. And there's so many issues that I have with this. So another thing, so the Sidewalk Labs, they've kind of proposed doing this civic data trust as an independent company, but still, who is protecting your privacy? Who's ensuring that it's going to be used, wisely?
Yeah.
There's not what security protocols are in place.
Yep. We could skip ahead. I got a lot of clips from this, but we could skip ahead. So I've got Labs leak document controversy. So there's a controversy about them coming out and with a plan, and people don't like the plan.
Yeah,
so they're freaking out about the plan. They're, it's just a plan, guys. Just a plan.
Ideas that we've been discussing amongst ourselves. We really haven't been talking about it externally yet, but a leaked document got out and that became somewhat controversial, was a self-financing mechanism, which is say, if you kind of finance it up front, but you only look to the increase in tax revenues, property tax revenues, or perhaps developer charges that otherwise wouldn't happen but for the investment in infrastructure to pay you back, is that a valid form of financing? It's something that's used in many other
Is
jurisdictions.
that tax increment financing?
It's kind of like tax increment financing. And the key thing about it is that the investors don't get paid back unless there is development.
And we all know investors are in the business to not make money.
Yeah.
They're all charitable. They're all just doing it for the greater good.
Of course.
And the development is only made possible by virtue of the investment in infrastructure. And so is that, and that's a question I think that'll be a part of all sorts of public discussion, is that a valid approach when there's no...
We don't know. Let's see. I got
what other
more
clips?
Sidewalk Labs, more criticisms.
Let me share some more criticism with you then. Here's the Toronto Star reporting a quote from one of the councillors in the area that includes the Portlands. The counselor says the revelations left me very highly disturbed because all along the understanding was that this project was for a smart city for the 12 acres, and it's very clear that they want to control the destiny of the port lands, and that's never been in any kind of agreement. Does this person have a point in as much as what is emerging now is new and had not been discussed with the politicians before?
With all due respect, I think that's not accurate. And
It's not
let
accurate.
me cite some facts.
He cites the RFP, which says they should plan to scale up or have scalability, just to cut him off. That's what he says in 45 seconds for some reason.
But that's still not saying, I mean, it's not addressing the issue that a private company is in control of all this.
We got more privacy concerns.
I guess one of the areas that has proved to be most controversial is what are you going to do with the data that you're going to collect? And to that end, I want to just play you a clip here from Ann Kavukian, whom I know you know. She was an advisor on this project, former Information and Privacy Commissioner in the province of Ontario for, I think, 15 years. This really is her bag. And she stopped being an advisor to this project, and here's why. Sheldon, the clip, please.
They created this new group called the Civic Data Trust, which sounds great, to address the governance issues associated with this. There's privacy issues and governance issues. They're both very important. I address privacy. And they said the Civic Data Trust will consist of Waterfront Toronto, ourselves, other bodies, companies, and others. And we will encourage them to de-identify the data at source.
De-identify.
But we have no control over what they do.
So encouragement
What?
wasn't enough.
Oh my God.
Encouragement wasn't enough.
This must happen as the default.
De-identifying data at source. That's what she wants. She obviously doesn't feel that you have made an adequate commitment to that, which is why she left. What's the latest?
Well, first of all, I think the important distinction to understand is, A, we said we will do that. But secondly, we said we're proposing the creation of a body that will control all of the urban data. And all we said was it really ought to be up to them to decide what their own principles and policies are, rather.
A good follow-up question would be, who controls the data now? There's
Yeah.
already data. Who controls it? That would be the...
And the other issue too, even if they can de-identify this data, you're still getting all these clusters of data about different populations of people and where people are at certain times and all these sorts of pattern monitoring. And still, even if it's not personalized, even though I don't really believe that,
Yeah.
who is in control?
Who has the data? Who has it?
And how are they profiting off of that data?
Last clip, more criticism. See how long we get into this one.
Well, since you seem to be so open to constructive criticism, we have some more for you.
I'm surprised.
Here's Jim Balsillie, who's the
laugh.
former co-CEO of Research in Motion. He actually had a letter in the newspaper just yesterday, and he was on this program earlier this month, and he had this to say. Sheldon, please.
When you deal with these kinds of issues, they're very technical, and it requires expertise, and you must be very deliberate and systemic. So the people who made this decision have no expertise whatsoever on these IP and data issues. So it would be like me walking into a neurosurgery operating clinic and say, can I have a turn? So we have a rogue agency with no expertise operating outside of its government prescribed mandates. And this tail is wagging the dog of the digital nervous system of the whole country.
That's Waterfront Toronto he's talking about there, and who are your partners in this venture. What do you say to his characterization of this?
I think, first of all, it shows incredible disrespect to a lot of
Interesting what he says here.
really hardworking, very competent public servants. I think also what you can see out of government is very capable of bringing people in and gaining expertise. No one ever expects people to have all the expertise they need when an issue comes up. In fact, Waterfront Toronto did that. They created a digital strategy advisory panel. To be honest, we had issues with them originally, but as we've actually over the last several months been working through issues in much greater detail, we've basically been able to really understand each other in a level of depth that I don't think people would have assumed even a few months ago. So
Oops. Yep. So there's that. And what I understood his statement as saying is, oh no, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They hired us. Of course they know what they're doing. They
Yeah.
hired us. We're on board. But if they hired one of the other competitors, don't know what they're doing now. Yeah, I don't know.
Or they could just go the Vegas route and let everybody have a free-for-all in there.
Yeah. Other examples. Las Vegas has given the green light to nearly every company that has approached it. The result is a patchwork of pilot programs on its streets. Cameras from Cisco, trash scanners from Microsoft, and sensors from NTT. Officials are not trying to impose any sort of broader vision of what the city is trying to accomplish. Kansas City, Missouri is looking for a single company to install a fully integrated suite of sensors, networks, and data and analytic platforms. Now it's sifting through 15 proposals, says Chief Innovation Officer Bob Bennett.
I'd love to read those 15 proposals.
San Diego faced a public backlash when it was revealed that a network of smart streetlights installed by GE had cameras affixed that police were using to watch citizens. Uh-oh. Whoa. Who would have thought that could happen?
Yeah. So again,
cameras can
so
be used to
much
watch people?
privacy concerns. Didn't they have to uninstall those cameras allegedly? I think it faced a lot of backlash.
Probably.
But still, you don't know exactly what's being installed, who's watching, where this data is going.
We really don't.
Yeah.
Moving on. The Age. We banned phones at our school, and everyone's happier now. This is interesting. This feeling, which I would describe as one of relief, comes about simply because we, as a school, have taken a firm stand against the ubiquitous mobile phone. This stance does not mean that we think phones cannot be a useful learning tool in the classroom. It's just that our experience tells us that in the vast majority of cases, when it comes to mobile phones, there is usually very little learning taking place. We formed a new decree. Phones could be accessed before school and after, and that was it. Placed in lockers throughout the day, no phone on a person, either in class or at lunchtime or recess. Miraculously, we are all used to it. Teachers practice what they preach, and I get the feeling students actually like it. School is easier this way. It is nice to check your phone at the end of the day, but now it seems normal not to worry or think about it until the bell has gone and there are buses and trains to catch. Darren Harrison is a teacher at St. Columbus College in Edison, as wherever. Yeah.
I just wish more people would step away from the phone.
Yes.
And there have been studies done that say that the phone distracts from your ability to do well on test taking, even just the presence of it, because you're kind of thinking about your phone.
Yep.
So this is great.
Yep.
I would really like to see more people implement this.
Yeah, but then with schools and phones and everything, it starts to, and I've heard this in all the technology podcasts, so I already know the counter argument. My kids need a phone because if there's an emergency, they need to get a hold of me. Well, guess what? If the school has a school shooting or something, you're not getting to the school, buddy. You're not getting to the school, so... And you can congest a cell tower too, unless it's 5G, then maybe not. But I don't know. You can congest cell towers too, so let's be real.
That's true.
These are children we're talking about. Let the schools, you got to trust the schools, don't you? So that's kind of a...
I
don't know what else to do, because if you have a bunch of people calling on the same tower, pinging that tower, it's going to...
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
I just wish people had more self-discipline, but...
Yeah.
Oh, well. All right.
I wish people had self-discipline too. I wish a lot of people had self-discipline. A lot of people in the chat room had self-discipline. Yeah.
All right. Next story.
At New York Times, depressed and anxious, these video games want to help. And I have a trailer from a new video game.
Ooh.
No sound, though, because I don't want to distract myself while I'm reading. So we have a trailer here. We're going to check it out. Sea of Solitude, which Electronic Arts will publish this year, is among a growing number of video games that are tackling mental health issues. Last year, a game called Celeste explored depression and anxiety through a protagonist who had to avoid physical and emotional obstacles. In 2017's Final Fantasy action-adventure video game called Hellblade Sacrifice, a young Celtic warrior deals with psychosis. Other games in recent years, including Night in the Woods and Pry, have delved into the self-identity, anger issues, and post-traumatic stress disorder. All follow the 2013 interactive fiction game Depression Quest, which asks players to step into the shoes of a character living with depression. Whoa. To date, most of the games tackling mental health have come from independent makers. Sea of Solitude points to a shift, a gamble by Electronic Arts, one of the industry largest and best-known platform developers ever. Madden, all kinds of great games that nobody likes because EA just has a lot of money and they don't actually develop good games. Well, didn't say that. What do you think? Oh, the article also brings up Stardew Valley. Sorry. After the 2016 simulation role-playing game Stardew Valley, which does not punish players for not completing tasks and creates a slow-paced atmosphere where the objectives is to take care of a rundown farm, was realized. And I see a lot of people playing that on Twitch, and it makes me not want to play it.
Well, just because it's too slow paced for you, or
Yes. It's too slow-paced. It doesn't punish me.
Yeah.
I like to play the games that punish me. You know?
it's a pretty interesting.
No, Stardew Valley actually does look really cool. It looks like a Harvest Moon. It looks like a more advanced Harvest Moon, and I got addicted to Harvest Moon.
So the question is that good for you?
I don't know. We have a TED Talk, TEDx.
Before we play this clip, a lot of people say that video games cause depression. People get addicted, but let's hear their take.
TEDx. Can a video game save a life? With Johnny Chiodini. Video game. I can't see the name of the clip. Video game industry. It's a really long name. Resume. It's proving that this guy's got the chops for the video game stuff.
Hello, I'm Johnny Chiodini. I
wrong.
am senior video producer for a website called Eurogamer.net, which is an independent gaming site. In other words, I make videos about video games. I first joined the games industry in 2008 when I looked, there it is, there's my name. I like to spell it out phonetically, it makes me feel like a species of dinosaur. But I joined the games industry in 2008 when I looked like this. Thought that was a good way to dress myself. And I started an internship at Independent Television News. I worked there for 3 years before moving to a website called GameSpot for a further 3 years. And then I went freelance for a year, during which time I helped Channel 4 make a program called Two Players. And then in 2015, I joined the Eurogamer team.
Jumping right in, following up on his depression.
With mental health. I've suffered from depression and anxiety since I was about 14 years old, but I wasn't diagnosed until 2012. I took antidepressants for 2 years and also underwent a course of cognitive behavioral therapy, both of which I found to be extremely useful. I still have my rough patches, of course, but all in all, I feel pretty well equipped to deal with my issues.
And now he goes into League of Legends, which at the time was the biggest game ever, but it's not the case anymore. So let's take a look.
Well, firstly, video games make us feel good, and we're going to come back to that in a second. But first, I need you to understand video games are absolutely everywhere. The biggest video game in the world right now is a game called League of Legends. It's what we call a MOBA, or a multiplayer online battle.
I believe this has been replaced by the biggest game, Fortnite or Apex. One of those two are now the biggest game during the time of this recording, I believe.
Battle arena game. In a game of League of Legends, two teams of players face off at opposite ends of a map, and they try to destroy one another, basically. And in 2014, 67 million people worldwide played this game every single month.
67 million people played it every single month in 2014. I'm
crazy.
sure the numbers are much higher now.
Yeah.
During peak gameplay hours in 2014, 7.5 million people could be found playing this video game at the same time. To put that into perspective, the population of London, which is where I'm from, in 2014 was 8.5 million, just 1 million more.
Jeez.
So try and imagine a city, if you can, in which every single day, at the same time, 7 out of 8 people stop whatever it is they're doing, go to a computer, log in, and start playing the same video game. Wow. League of Legends. If, as a League of Legends player, you've got less than 500 hours on the clock, you're still considered a novice. Now,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a lot of freaking time. So now, continue on. They make us feel good.
they also make us feel good. Now, how does that work? Well, pretty much every video game in the world is designed along the same principles. You challenge your player, and then you reward your player for completing whatever challenge it is you've set them. Here's an example. This is Tetris, one of the best-known video games in the entire world. As you probably know, blocks come down from the top of the screen, and you arrange them to complete horizontal rows. When you finish a row, it disappears, and you get some points. But if the blocks reach the top of the screen, it's game over. Pretty simple. And that's all very lovely and tactile and wonderful and engaging. But the thing is, if you really know your Tetris, you'll probably spend most of your time playing like this, stacking all of the
I do
blocks
not play
on
like
the
that.
top of the screen and deliberately
Good
leaving a
strategy.
gap 1 square wide on the opposite end. all because you're waiting for that block up there, the straight 4. Now this little tetramino, that's what they're called, tetraminos, it slots in there and it takes out 4 rows at once in a beautiful move called, wait for it, a Tetris. And when you get a Tetris, you get a load of points, great, but you also get a little sound effect and you get a flag.
You get the point?
Yeah, the rewarding.
Yes, the reward center. It goes into gaming communities.
Designed around cooperation, around communication, and around fostering communities. Now these game communities, each one designed around a different video game, they're designed to celebrate the game everyone's playing, sure, but they're also designed to get people sharing their own experiences and paying attention to the experiences of others. In other words, these communities being fostered around video games are designed to get people reaching out to others and helping them have a better time. And ultimately, that is exactly the kind of support network somebody suffering with a mental health disorder ought to have access to. Now, in 2010, Jane McGonigal gave a fantastic TED Talk called Gaming Can Make a Better World. It's really inspirational. I suggest you find it and you watch it. In her talk, she said, gaming can make a better world by inspiring people to be the best they can possibly be and then go out there and solve real-world problems. She said games make people hardworking, communicative, and a third thing. Very specifically, she described people who play video games as super empowered, hopeful individuals.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Which is something that someone suffering from depression or a similar mental health issue would probably want or need more than.
Is this really interesting that they're saying that these video games can help you build some sort of confidence? And I guess I could see how they help with communication skills if you're playing a co-op game and you're trying to work together.
Yep. I have 2 more clips if you want to go in.
Yep.
Cool.
What's this happening? We have story games like Life is
Just
Strange,
examples of
which is
games.
a beautiful game that weaves themes of depression and suicide around some of its core characters. Papo and Yo is a game that seeks to examine how addiction can impact on a family unit. And there are also games like Flowy with a more therapeutic bent. Now, Flowy is a game designed for people who suffer from anxiety and from panic attacks. The idea is, when you feel a panic attack coming, and you recognize those symptoms, you start playing Flowy, and it starts getting you to breathe more regularly, and it distracts you. And that helps you calm down and master your own symptoms, and hopefully, basically arrest a panic attack. And there are also experiences like Virtual Iraq. Virtual Iraq is a virtual therapeutic experience aimed at combat war veterans from the Iraq War who are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. As you can see, it's a virtual experience, so you put on a headset and a set of headphones, and they even pipe smells into the room where appropriate. And it plunges you into a digital representation of the streets of Iraq. It starts at a very low, very safe intensity, but then gradually over the course of several sessions, they introduce new elements of danger until ultimately the patient ends up confronting the traumatic event that led to their PTSD in the first place.
That's really interesting that VR could be that effective for curing. That's
definitely something to research.
Because VR is not that convincing. It makes a lot of people sick. It's not, so I don't understand how it could be that effective.
Yeah.
But hey, if it works, psh. Also those isolation chambers where you float around, those are supposed to help. Whatever works. Yeah. Whatever works,
methods.
Please don't.
And I know a lot of people really enjoyed the game Life is Strange. I know someone in the chat also commented, but I know many friends who were experiencing depression and they were really able to relate and they really enjoyed the game.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know. Before hearing this, I didn't know Life is Strange was a depression game or anything.
Yeah, because it deals with suicide. And
wow.
I think at some point you have to talk somebody down from killing themselves.
Wow.
But if you haven't been interacting with them, then you may not have that opportunity. So it's very intense.
Jeez Louise. Sounds like your kind of game.
It's good though, because I feel like it makes people more empathetic as well. But I do worry about people getting addicted to the reward system. Yep.
I agree with that. As far as, well, also we have the manipulation aspect, because if this can manipulate someone's mind for good, how can it not be used for bad, or how is how do we restrict it from being used for bad? That's kind of the issue.
Yeah.
It's great that it's working now. Well, let's closing clip. Something about encouraging community.
We need to do everything we can to encourage that. Because we have these communities, they're ready-made, they're already there, and they're very used to talking to one another. So if we can just get them talking about their experiences with mental health at the same time, we have the potential to construct a truly fantastic support network. We have the opportunity to combat mental health stigma from inside one of the largest and most talkative communities in the entire world. We could, if we continue to engage with mental health in an open, honest, and direct way, we could build a future in which people are just as comfortable talking about their mental health as their high scores, their lap times, and their flawless victories. And ultimately, there's no telling how many lives that could save.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with the community aspect. That's I don't think you need the video games for that, though. That's kind of
Well, I
you
mean,
don't really need
just
video
think
games
about
for
Twitch,
the-
though. Everyone's connecting over these video games, but
Yeah, but
if
again, if you take the video
Well,
games out, why can't people
yeah,
just connect on
that's
their
why
own?
we need to have real life meetups.
Oh,
of
Healthy
your
Talk Show.
Twitch friends. Yeah.
Ask at healthytalkshow.com. We're going to do a real life Healthy Talk
Yeah.
Show meetup.
SoCal meetup.
Before we leave SoCal. Forever. All right. Well, we have one more story. Euro News. Initiative to ensure all cars sold in the EU will have speed limiters by 2020. CNN picked up on this. Europe will require car makers to install speed limiters from 2022. 2022, that's the date, sorry. New cars sold in Europe from 2022 will have to be fitted with systems to limit their speed. Under new safety rules agreed by the European Union, all vehicles are required to have intelligent speed assistance systems as standard equipment. We have a video about this. The intro.
This legislation states that all new vehicles bought and sold in the European Union from the year 2022 will have to be fitted with so-called intelligent speed assistance technology, meaning that vehicles using their own cameras and GPS technologies can warn their drivers if they are about to go over the local speed limit. The car can then also itself automatically slow down. Other measures that are being discussed include ways in which cars can have inbuilt breathalyzers to make sure drivers aren't over any alcoholic limits, or also emergency braking systems.
That's good. First question that came to mind, and this clip actually answers it. What about Germany?
Yeah.
The Autobahn. No speed limit.
Let's hear it.
Let's go.
The link between speed on motorways and road safety has been so explicitly made, and legislation drawn out weighs very heavily on a very contentious and indeed sensitive debate in Germany about speed limits, because there aren't speed limits on 70% of Germany's motorway networks, making it a complete anomaly in Europe. And this doesn't look set to change anytime soon. The Conservative-led government in Germany believes that it is a right for people travelling on Germany's motorways to travel as fast as they want, despite criticism from the Green Party. The Green Party, in fact, have welcomed the legislation put forward by the European Commission yesterday. And I've been speaking to motorists this morning, and I've also been getting mixed reactions. Some drivers...
We're going to cut it off there. We have another 30 seconds, but the show's going to be really long, so I'm going
Yeah.
to start cutting these clips up. All right. I think moving on.
Oh,
Does it have
wait,
anything
there was
else?
something that...
Oh,
Because they also said that they were going to install breathalyzers.
Yes.
Which they kind of threw that in as
there's
a
a
last
lot of
throwaway
different
line.
technology that they're going to...
Yeah, and the car won't start unless you pass the breathalyzer. Like, I understand the safety measures that they're trying to implement, but at the same time, where are our personal rights and freedoms?
Well, a question from the chat about the Autobahn. Isn't it relatively safe? It's extremely safe. And I've asked people who have driven on it, how is it safe? And they say because they pass correctly.
Yeah.
So if you're going slower than the person behind you, you go to the right, and the other person can pass you. Yeah, go to the right. You're supposed to go and pull over or go to the side. You're not. There's no cool. If you're going slower than the person behind you, you better get the heck out of the way. It's great.
Plus, I get paranoid too. If the car can slow you down, you know.
Oh yeah, of course. But all the cars can do that now. What are you talking about?
Oh,
That's why we're gonna
I don't
buy.
wanna connect
That's why
the
we're gonna
car.
buy a 1985 Toyota Corolla.
Heck yes.
Our next car, because we don't want computers in our cars. We're paranoid. Motherboard, education and science giant Elsevier
Elsevier
left users' passwords exposed online. Elsevier, the company behind scientific journals such as The Lancet, left a server open to the public internet, exposing user email addresses and passwords. The impacted users included people from universities and educational institutions from across the world. Elsevier, I always try to say it fancy, Elsevier. I'm going to say it like that, Elsevier. That's how it looks. It looks like Elsevier. So I'm going to say it fancy. Elsevier is controversial.
we can do fancy.
After acquiring a number of platforms that distribute academic material for free, profit-driven Elsevier's legal threats against other sites that openly host millions of scientific papers have forced them to go into the digital underground and distribute their material with protection of the Tor anonymity network. Some universities have boycotted Elsevier. The data itself was displayed via Kibana, a popular tool for visualizing the stored data. They actually tested this in real time. They had a user go in and change their password, and then they pinged this server, and they pulled the new password down.
That was insane and hilarious.
Not a good month for Elsevier.
Yeah. Earlier we reported
Insider. Oh, I should actually start showing the news stories again. I forgot about that. Sorry about that. Doesn't matter. Bow, bow. Higher Ed. UC drops Elsevier. Earlier this month, March 1st, I believe. UC has been pushing for a so-called read and publish deal with the company, which would offset the cost of open access publishing against the cost of access to subscription content. Lead negotiators for the system argue that this kind of deal will help publishers accelerate open access publishing and eventually eliminate paywalls. Under such a deal, all UC research papers published in Elsevier journals would be immediately available to the public. After more than 6 months of negotiations, it became clear that Elsevier was not willing to meet UC's demands, said Jeff Mason and Ivy Anderson, the system's lead negotiators. Elsevier made an offer that would combine the cost of accessing paywalled content and publishing open access articles, but the offer came with a hefty price tag, and the negotiators said, which the systems are not willing to pay. $10 million a year that they lost from the UC systems backing out. This is not that well talked about, so we got to talk about this a little bit. So from what I understand, and you correct me because you deal with publishing and stuff more than I do. You're a real scientist. I'm not. I'm a fake scientist. But you have to pay to publish your information on.
Correct.
And it's a credible thing. It's prestige. So these, Elsevier is a prestigious, trusted source, and their peer-reviewed journals are better. Or I don't understand.
I mean, allegedly, if you're paying to publish, then it's supposed to be a better journal. But a lot of people have been debating about this since the cost to publish is really high, and then you also have to pay to access these journals.
And that's where open access comes in?
Right.
Okay.
And the argument, too, is where is all this money going? Because, yes, they have to pay to store, but usually the editors are not paid, or they're not paid a lot. Yeah. So, pretty interesting. I think this is a sealed deal.
And I think one of the arguments was if it's publicly funded, it's supposed to be open access. I think that's the logic that a lot of people are trying to push.
Yeah, but they were... They were trying to work out some sort of delayed schedule, but
like
even
a 6-month delay or something.
I mean, that still hurts.
Science.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gizmodo, 2 million credit cards exposed after a hack of Bucket of Beppo, Planet Hollywood, and others. Over 2 million credit cards have been compromised after hackers installed malware on point-of-sale systems for Earl Enterprises, a restaurant company that owns national chains like Bucket of Beppo, Planet Hollywood, and Earl of Sandwich. The hacking occurred between May 23, 2018 and March 18, 2019, according to the company. Once we learned of the potential incident, we promptly launched an internal investigation and engaged 2 leading cybersecurity firms, Earl Enterprises said in a statement. As part of the investigation, we have been in contact with federal law enforcement officials and are cooperating with them.
Every episode, we're reporting on some sort of data leak.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Yeah, I don't know.
Stop using credit cards?
Yeah, or don't eat a Bucket of Beppo. That place is a ripoff.
You can make good Italian food at home.
Yeah, a Bucket of Beppo was not a fan when I went. Science Daily. Need to increase diversity within genetic data sets. Polygenic scores can predict a person's risk for conditions like coronary artery disease, breast cancer, and type 2 diabetes with great accuracy, even in patients who lack common warning signs. The new genome analysis tool holds promise for physicians who may be able to intervene earlier to help prevent common disease for at-risk individuals.
That's one way to interpret that.
According to the new study, however, polygenic scores developed by studying Europeans do a better job at predicting disease risk for people of European ancestry than those from other ancestries. What? Researchers from the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard, Massachusetts General Hospitals led a team that used large-scale genetic data from UK Biobank to develop prediction scores for height, body mass index, and certain other traits.
Yeah, it was kind of freaky how accurate these predictions were. So it shows exactly how not genetically diverse these European populations are. But then what's also interesting, so as of 2016, 80% of participants in genetic studies are of European descent. So I think we've mentioned that before in some of the past studies, especially on the MMR vaccine research that was just done on the UK population. And so Europeans constitute only 16% of the world population. And the UK Biobank is one of the largest publicly available genetic data sets. So it contains information for 500,000 people, 94% of whom are of European ancestry.
That is great diversity there.
Yeah, that is not good for science. And so this is also interesting too, because now you're talking about that now you're going to have further inequities in the healthcare system if we're not looking at minorities and not studying minority populations very well, or rather at all. Or really any other population other than Europeans.
Yeah.
And then since their DNA is so homogenous, maybe we're not really getting a good sense of,
You're probably not.
See,
That was a nice way of saying it. Maybe you're not.
So, more research.
More research. That's Healthy Talk Show's mentality. More research.
Science.
Science is good. Time. The USDA forced kittens to become cannibals for research, Watchdog report says. A shocking Watchdog report alleges that the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, spent $22.5 million conducting unnecessary and unjustifiable research that involved killing cats and forcing kitten cannibalism, among other unsavory practices. The report from a nonprofit White Coat Waste Project, which opposes animal testing by the government, and former USDA scientist Kim Jeans says a large chunk of this research relates to toxoplasmosis, an illness spread by exposure of Toxoplasma gondii parasite. Now, state-sponsored Russian fake news, RT, picked up on this story 6 months ago. So Time just published this story, March 2019. So let's see what the RT has to say about this. RT Kittens intro. Cueing the clip.
The USDA has been doing
I'm here at the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center here in Maryland, and a nonprofit organization is accusing this center of killing thousands of cats. The White Coat Waste Project, an advocacy group based in Virginia, filed a suit against the U.S. Agriculture Department, citing the department wrongfully experiments on cats. As a result, killing 100 cats a year. The documents say these cats were intentionally infected with a parasite that is known to cause toxoplasmosis. This disease, which is transmitted in contaminated meat, can cause miscarriages and birth defects in humans.
Wow. RT on the case. We got one more. Why would the USDA use cats?
The USDA has been doing these same experiments for virtually 50 years. With very little accountability and oversight from Congress or taxpayers to ensure that the public is getting anything out of this. Right now, the kittens are being used simply to grow parasites for use in other experiments. These cats, when they're 8 weeks old, are force-fed, parasite-ridden raw meat. Their feces is collected for 2 weeks simply to pick the parasites out of it, and then the kittens are killed even though they're perfectly healthy and completely immune from the parasite once they pass it through their bodies.
According to the USDA Administrator Shavonda Jacobs-Young, close to 3,000 cats have been used in research efforts since 1982. In a statement from the department, it says the Agricultural Research Service, USDA, makes every effort to minimize the number of cats used to produce eggs required to research one of the most widespread parasites in the world. The cats are essential to the success of this critical research. Only cats are found to excrete the environmentally resistant stage of the parasite. Several members of Congress are calling on the USDA to stop this program. Representative Eric Polk.
Well, there we go. So RT was on the case. What do you think?
Yeah.
You looked into it
Well, I think Kitten Lady is the one that kind of publicized it.
in the States, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I tried looking into it. I didn't find exactly what studies they were doing, but they do make a good point that the cats are the only way that the toxoplasmosis is able to complete the life cycle. So they're talking about these oocytes, and so maybe it's necessary.
It might
for
be.
the research.
Yeah, exactly. In the chat, it's been done for 50 years. That's how it's always been done. Just because you do something for a long time doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. So your argument, come on, you got to work on a better argument than that, my friend in the chat. It's not a good argument. You can't just say that. Oh, it's the way it's always been done. Let's just throw up our hands. See, we have to think, and we have to... Automod blocked it. Whatever. I don't know what you're saying, but don't cuss. Automod will block it. And we have mods in the chat that'll block you, so don't say anything stupid.
He was just basically saying that science puts humans above all other
Oh,
lives.
yeah, right. I don't agree with that.
I don't know. I feel like...
Well, I would say, science, is that supposed to be the way science is, or that's the way scientists think? Is that what...
That's how scientists usually perform.
Yeah.
A lot of, animals are sacrificed for the good of science.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
It's
Whether
it's right or wrong, I'm not arguing morality.
Whether you can find other ways to do it or better ways to do research.
Yeah.
Maybe people argue they could have adopted out the cats, but
it's also because it's cats, and we don't we have them as pets. Is that?
Yeah, that's true. That people feel this emotional attachment.
It's like how people don't want to eat horse. A lot of people eat horse. I don't understand this whole anti-eating horse thing. I don't understand.
All right, moving on. We have a lot of stories.
CNN. A new male birth control pill might be safe, but there's still a long way to go, researchers say. Time. Oh, hold on. Sorry. There we go. Time. Promising male birth control pill is safe and effective, study says. Inverse. New male birth control pill method preserves a very important part of sex. Researchers have looked at a number of ways to do this, not only through a pill, but also through an injection and topical gel. And now there's a new drug in pill form, which has been evaluated for safety, though not effectiveness. The preliminary results of this latest drug, which goes by the abbreviation 11-beta-MNTDC, rolls right off the tongue, were presented Monday at the annual meeting of the Endocrine Society. Dr. Christina Wang of Los Angeles Biomed Research Institute announced that her team's trial of the male birth control compound called 11-beta-MNTDC. Yeah, okay, let's take a look. We have that clip here.
The drawbacks of the current methods, such as condoms, withdrawal, and rhythm, is that it's timing dependent as well as user dependent, and vasectomy is presented as irreversible. And the questions that we are always asked, are men willing to use novel contraceptive? And a global survey of over 9,000 men in 9 countries showed that at least 55% of men would use a male method. And when we further ask them, they say the pill is the most preferred method, followed by a long-acting
Yeah, what do you think about that? I don't see men being against using a male pill as long as it works.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What do you think? Men are kind of maybe a little weird about stuff like that.
I think it's that a lot of women don't trust their partners to take the pill consistently.
It is hard. The female birth control pill is quite difficult.
Did you have other clips
to
play?
I've got tons.
All right, let's see what else she says.
All right, hormonal approach, she explains.
So what we are talking about in this abstract is the pill, which is 11-beta-methyl-19-nortestosterone docetaxel carbonate. We call them 11-beta-MNTDC. We're begging for the NICHD to give us a name that we can pronounce.
Me too.
And this is converted to 11-beta-MNT. And the special thing about this is that it acts both as a male hormone and a progesterone, and all in one pill. This compound is developed by the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development. Why do we need the two compounds? The reason why is that it causes more efficient suppression of sperm production and the male hormone.
How does the pill work for men?
Normal men, the function of the testis, which is twofold mainly, is to produce sperm and to produce testosterone. And it's regulated by hormones from the brain, and including this GnRH and LH and FSH. So when we give an exogenous androgen progestin has been shown in many other contraceptive efficacy studies, it knocks out or suppresses these two hormones and therefore decreases the production of both testosterone and spermatogenesis. And we are not worried about a decrease in testosterone production because we are giving exogenous androgens such as testosterone. So 11-beta-MNT is an androgen and a progestin.
11-beta-NNT. That's what 11-beta-NNT. I gotta learn how to say that.
And it works the same way as an androgen progestin, so it's a pill with two hormone actions in one.
So what she's trying to say is a lot of these different drugs, so not just this one, but they were also just trying to use other synthetic forms of testosterone. Basically, you have enough testosterone in your body so that you don't have decreased sex drive, because of course, what's the point if you're not going to want to have sexual intercourse now?
Yep.
But the concentration of testosterone in the testes, so testosterone is produced in the testicles, that concentration will be low, and at least allegedly. But, there's still been some issues. So some problem with this specific drug study is that they only measured the levels of testosterone, not the sperm production. And in one of the other studies where they were trying to use a combination of testosterone and estradiol, they actually found that a few of the males had sperm production later. So they measured it like every several weeks. And at first it decreased it, but then the men rebounded. So
they came back.
Yeah, the sperm came back. And there's been other attempts to come up with male contraceptives, like some sort of injectable that you can put to prevent the sperm from flowing through the vas deferens. But
we have our findings. I don't want to go through her study. I got her study, but let's go through the findings.
So what we found mainly is that the oral 11-beta MNTDC shown here compared to the placebo group, markedly and rapidly suppress the hormone LH, as well as FSH not shown, the hormones that regulate the production of sperm and the production of testosterone. So this slide then shows that we know this is going to work because the exogenous hormones, exogenous pills suppress both LH, FSH, and the production of testosterone. As you can see, it causes a very rapid decrease in testosterone and then recover when the medication is stopped. So, however,
and then she goes into no loss of sex drive. I have that clip, but that's only 14 seconds. And I have her closing comments if you want those.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to answer a question from the chat. So you do still ejaculate. It's just that fluid does not have sperm in it.
Good. There you go. healthytalkshow.com/support.
So where are we now? Is this going to be a male pill? We showed that 11-beta-MNTDC was very well tolerated with no serious adverse effect. The men, although have very low testosterone level, but very few had sexual symptoms because the medication is also a male hormonal activity. What about off-target effects, side effects? It showed mild weight gain and some cholesterol changes. Our next step will be a longer study, more than 3 months, to demonstrate that this pill, which is 11-beta-MNT, DC, to prove further safety as well as suppression of sperm production in men. I'm showing my collaborators here, and if you have questions, you can direct to myself or Dr. Page.
There you go. They're the collaborators.
Yeah.
And an ad.
So she kind of answered why we don't have a male birth control pill. So we still need a lot more studies. A lot of these studies done have been on very small groups, so 30 or so. So they're just moving into the human trials. So
yeah,
still might be a while.
Yeah, and unfortunately.
Well, and not everyone is a fan of hormonal birth control, even for women.
That's true. I'm not the biggest fan just because I'm a naturalist.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying don't take your birth control. You do what you got to do, but personally.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've had bad experiences just because it triggers, depression.
Yeah.
And so that's hard for women. But
yeah, and IUDs cause a lot of issues too in the chat, see?
Yeah, so a lot of issues.
A lot of issues across the board with just putting stuff in your body.
But try to find whatever works for you.
Find the good balance.
All right, moving on.
Everything in moderation.
Oh, I guess on the topic of birth control, though.
Yes. Aloe vera. Oh, Science Daily, aloe vera. Birth control vaginal ring effectively prevents unwanted pregnancy, research finds. A recently approved contraceptive vaginal ring, the first that can be used for an entire year, is a highly effective birth control method according to clinical trial data that was presented Tuesday at ENDO 2019, the Endocrine Society annual meeting in New Orleans, which we just covered a video from. Approved last August by the FDA, aloe vera is a self-inserted system marketed by Therapeutics MD. The ring is left in place for 21 days and removed for 7 days in each cycle. It provides contraceptive efficacy for up to 13 cycles, 1 year of use. It is designed to release 150, what's MCG? I should have spelled that out for me. Whatever
I think that's micrograms.
Yep, segastrone. Yep, and there's some other chemicals there. Yeah, that's what it does. And Science Daily, contraceptive jewelry could offer a new family planning approach. Family planning for women might one day be as simple as putting on an earring. A report published recently in the Journal of Controlled Release describes a technique for administering contraceptive hormones through special backings on jewelry such as earrings, wristwatches, rings, or necklaces. The contraceptive hormones are contained in patches applied to portions of jewelry in contact with the skin, allowing the drugs to be absorbed into the body.
Yeah.
Contraceptive jewelry adapts transdermal patch technology that is already in use to administer drugs that prevent motion sickness, support smoking cessation, and control the symptoms of menopause. But have never been incorporated into jewelry before. Very interesting. Here's the picture.
I think it's pretty interesting, especially because a lot of women complain that they forget to put their, patch on or take the pills. So if you put your earring on every day, could be interesting. Again, if hormonal birth control works for your body. If it's for you,
yes. I've used the Dramamine patches. I think it is Dramamine. Little thing put behind the ear.
Oh,
when
yeah.
You go on a boat. Use those. Seem to be okay. Don't mix them with a lot of alcohol, though.
Yeah. And if in the chat, if you're looking for other forms of birth control, we personally recommend skin
condoms. They're really good. We could talk off the podcast about that. We actually did an episode about that, but we got you covered. AskHealthyTalkShow.com.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to drugs now.
Yes. Changing to drugs. New York Times book review, Drug Epidemics, Past and Present. 10 Drugs, How Plants, Powders, and Pills Have Shaped the History of Medicine by Thomas Hager. Synthetic opioids, drugs far more potent than anything that's come before, are flooding America's streets. New users start up daily while old users fall deeper into cycles of despair. And as officials bicker about whether addiction is a medical or criminal problem, thousands upon thousands of people are dying. 10 Drugs describes America's first forgotten opioid epidemic a century ago. The culprit back was morphine, a compound isolated from poppy sap. And as Hager makes clear, we're just as helpless treating addicts today as we were in the 1900s. Yikes. Hager also dissects how the rise of the giant drug companies has changed medicine. His critique is, he acknowledges rightly that it was late 1930s. Yep, that's it. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's good. Are we going to jump right through? You got anything to say?
I just wanted to say something else that really stood out from that article. So America is 4.4% of the world's population, but we consume 80% of all opioids. So we might have an issue. And this is going to be kind of a theme in these next upcoming stories of this opioid crisis and drug addiction and what do we do?
Yep. CNN, hundreds of cities, counties, and Native American tribes file federal lawsuit against Sackler family over opioid crisis. CNN, Purdue Pharma to pay $270 million to settle historic Oklahoma opioid lawsuit. New York Times, Purdue Pharma and Sacklers reached $270 million settlement opioid lawsuit. CNN, New York Attorney General announces sweeping lawsuit against opioid manufacturer Sackler family. Purdue Pharma and Sacklers reached $270 million. From New York Times again. Holy moly. Not a good week for the Sacklers. We actually have a clip from CBS This Morning, accused of fueling the opioid crisis. Purdue Pharma and Sacklers agreed to a $270 million.
They are issuing statements. The families of Raymond and
Whoops, did not mean to do that. Intro.
Purdue Pharma, the maker of OxyContin, agreed to pay $270 million to the state of Oklahoma. The settlement allows Purdue and its controlling owners, the Sackler family, to avoid a damaging trial and deny wrongdoing. That has angered people personally affected by the opioid epidemic. Tony DeCopel is outside the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, where the Sacklers have been major donors. Tony, good morning.
Good morning. The Sacklers have given millions to major institutions like this one all over the world. Now, as part of the settlement, they'll give $75 million to the state of Oklahoma. But critics worry that any settlement sets a dangerous precedent for the 35 states and hundreds of cities still suing the drug maker.
This begins a new chapter for those struggling with addiction.
Oklahoma Attorney General Mike Hunter declared Monday's settlement a victory, despite telling us last year he planned to take the case all the way to trial.
I have confidence in our laws. I have confidence in a jury of Oklahomans.
For some people affected by the epidemic, the settlement felt like a setback. This was expected to be the first lawsuit of its kind against Purdue Pharma to go to trial and even be televised.
Wow. So people are pissed. I cut off all the people being pissed off about it and all the story. That's one or two stories in here where people are not happy about this because the state just settled instead of going to court. We have a conclusion.
They are issuing statements. The families of Raymond and Mortimer Sackler said that the settlement in Oklahoma is unique and not a financial model for future discussions. The Met, meanwhile, is reviewing its gift policy in light of the Sacklers. And John, 3 other major museums have already said they will no longer accept Sackler money.
Holy moly.
Tony, thank you.
Not a good time for the Sacklers.
Oh, we had a question in the chat, but then the chat actually answered it, but I'm going to read the answer just because it kind of clarifies.
Yeah.
So opiates are derived directly from the poppy plant, and opioids are any substance, synthetic or organic, that binds to opioid receptors in the brain. So we've been talking about mainly the drugs, so fentanyl, Oxycontin.
Opioids like fentanyl are orders of magnitude more potent than opium. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Because fentanyl's the new force out there. All right, back to the Sacklers. And what that clip just said, museums. Well, guess what? Wait, wrong story. Right here. New York Times, museums cut ties with Sacklers over opioid crisis. Mother Jones. A lot of people. This is an interesting story because it actually says who's still accepting money from them. And as this, look at this right here. Look how much money they gave to all these museums and what the hell, man.
It's very interesting.
It's funny how money influences.
Yeah.
But now all these museums are thinking, oh, well, maybe we can't take their money anymore. It's dirty money. I don't know what.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yes.
Hey, gotta keep the good publicity, right?
Yeah. Ready to move on?
Yep.
New York Times, Bayer and Johnson & Johnson settle lawsuits over Xarelto, a blood thinner, for $775 million. US Today, $775 million settlement reached in lawsuits over Xarelto, a blood thinner. And then, kind of related, Fortune, Xarelto to become the first prescription drug with TV ads that includes pricing. Good save there, guys. Really good save. Good job. Nice save. Johnson & Johnson and Bayer said on Monday that they have agreed to pay $775 million to settle about 25,000 lawsuits involving the blood thinner Xarelto, which they jointly sell. The settlement, which will be split evenly between the two companies, resolves state and federal cases in which patients sued the companies for failing to warn about potentially fatal bleeding episodes when patients took the drug. Neither company admitted liability, and each noted that the companies have prevailed in the 6 lawsuits that went to trial. In a statement, the pharmaceutical division of Johnson & Johnson said it was settling because such complex litigation demands an enormous amount of time and resources. It added, what's the bottom line? We stand by Xarelto and are eager to excited to move forward. Johnson & Johnson decided to move ahead before any legislation that gives the company a first move advantage and help set practices. Oh, sorry, that's another story. That's the one about the ads. The company will include monthly list price before rebates to insurers of pharmacy benefit managers and then add a range of common copays. For Xarelto, that would mean a $448 monthly list price and $0 to $47 insurance copay, depending on the plan. Oof. Who wants that stuff?
Yeah.
That was the wrong story. There we go.
Little preview.
Yep.
It's kind of becoming a recurring theme, though, where maybe these drugs are more potent or more dangerous than people initially realized. So it's a lot of questions too. Are they being overprescribed or are there not enough warnings? I don't know. It's pretty interesting.
It is. And WJLA. Family pets are being hurt so addicts can get opioids from veterinarians. And I have that right here.
Tragic because our goal is to relieve pain.
Kristen Cotty, disturbed to say the least. Her job as a vet here at this animal hospital in Ohio is to love and care for animals. so it's always heartbreaking to learn someone is out to hurt them.
I don't even have words for it. It's just atrocious.
The FDA is sending out a warning to animal doctors. In a growing number of cases, people are stealing from their pets to get their fix.
I can think of one instance that someone came in looking for tramadol, which is an opioid-like pain medication. They knew all the right things to say and the medication to request.
Jeez.
Here's a conclusion.
States like Kentucky, Texas, Utah, and Colorado sending out warnings. The FDA releasing a list of recommendations among them, using alternatives to opioids, educating pet owners about possible misuse, and even urging veterinarians to have a safety plan in place in case they encounter someone they believe has hurt an animal trying to get a hold of drugs.
What doesn't make sense in the brain of someone not suffering from opiate addiction makes perfect rational sense.
That's a good point. You apply your logic to their logic because these are addicts that are jonesing, and it's, as he says,
Dustin Metz is the CEO
life or death
of
kind of thing.
Drug, a leading drug treatment center in Columbus. He says this issue is a prime example of the dangerous pull of addiction.
You have to understand that for someone suffering from opiate addiction, this is the most important thing right now. This is survival.
Yeah, it's life or death. At least in the even physically, man.
It's crazy. We have an issue.
We do, and everyone is on board. Take the Sacklers, sue them out of existence, right? Sue them out. I don't think it's going to happen. Pharmaceuticals too powerful. Switching gears away from opiates, unless you have anything else you want to talk about.
I think, well, we'll revisit opiates, I think, later.
Every episode. BBC, Malawi's antibiotic crisis, sorry. Why the drugs don't work for some. Why is Malawi facing an antibiotic crisis?
The patients take antibiotics anyhow. They self-medicate themselves. When they feel fever or sick, they just move into a pharmacy, get a drug, take it.
Damn it. I gotta remember. Overuse of antibiotics leads to bacterial resistance. Sorry for the audio.
This is one of my fears.
This means antibiotics no longer work for some patients. And that's the end of the clip.
It's evolution, man.
Yeah. It's what everyone who knows something about antibiotics keeps telling me is we're all going to develop immunity and then we're going to be screwed.
And it's worrisome too, because especially with the industrial farming, they tend to use a lot of antibiotics to prevent
what we're eating.
Infections. And eventually these antibiotics run into your water system.
Yep.
And I mean, it's just disturbing. And you have to think about how evolution works. So if you kill, 99% of the bacteria, then the 1% that survived is stronger and resistant. And then they breed, propagate, and then continue to evolve and become more resistant.
Yep.
So, go to your doctors.
In this BBC video, there's a little bit more. There's an example of someone. Yeah. Is such person.
Germs had invaded her uterus, causing it to get badly damaged. Upon assessment, they realized that they could not repair it or clean it. Then they proceeded to remove the uterus so that the patient would do better and also for the antibiotics to work better to clear the infection.
My husband and I are very young, and I'm afraid that he might leave me to make a baby elsewhere.
Eesh. Oops. Had her uterus removed? What?
Scary.
She's so young.
I know.
And like she said, she's very young, and now her husband's going to leave her because he wants to make babies. That's their culture. All right. Now we go into the antibiotics and meropenem.
Quite resistant to almost all.
This little guy here, he got his leg mauled by a crocodile, I believe. So I don't want to hear any kids complaining about falling or anything when they're playing baseball, because this kid freaking got mauled by a freaking alligator.
That we have here, except
and he's moving.
For one, which is meropenem, which is like the highest antibiotic that we have. But if that infection gets into his blood system, it means he's going to get sick.
Meropenem is considered the last line of defense. But even this is proving insufficient in some cases. There we go. Bam. These BBC videos, a little text.
So just recap, don't overuse your antibiotics.
Yes, and the doctors apparently want the laws changed. So let's take a look here. One more video. Doctors are demanding urgent changes to the law.
It's so vague that it doesn't prosecute people who are selling things like this. You understand? It cannot only be drugs like this, antibiotics. There are also other dangerous drugs which someone can just get on the counter like that. It is so bad. It is so wrong. And you know, those pharmacy guys, they know. Money being, yes, we need money at the end of the day, but look at people's lives. You can't just get this drug, sell it without a prescription.
That's pretty much what...
Yeah. It's unfortunate that money corrupts everything, and it seems like people always try to look for regulations.
Yep.
We can't just not do it.
Yeah, we can't just have self-control. I know. I know. Talking to that, CNN, physician groups call for taxes and regulations on kids' access to sugary drinks.
Screen.
What?
Wrong screen you're showing.
Oh, wrong screen. Sorry. Physician groups call for taxes and regulations on kids' access to sugary drinks. Yep. New York Times. I was looking at another screen. 2 top medical groups call for soda taxes and advertising curbs on sugary drinks. YouTube. Good Morning America. Health groups call for sweeping crackdown on sugary drinks from children. Let's take a look.
Overnight, the American Academy of Pediatrics, in partnership with the American Heart Association, recommending new policies to help reduce kids' consumption of sugary drinks, including price increases through taxation and limits on marketing to children.
The typical child consumes about 30 gallons of sugary drinks per year, and this is the largest source of added sugar
That's a lot.
Yeah.
30 gallons.
in the child's diet.
And while government recommendations call for children to consume fewer than 10% of calories from added sugars, children and teens are currently consuming 17% of their calories from added sugars, half from drinks alone, like sports drinks, fruit-flavored drinks, and sodas.
The evidence has become stronger and stronger. The health difficulties have gotten worse. Type 2 diabetes in children, fatty liver disease, cardiovascular disease, tooth decay.
The Academy says that healthier drinks like water and milk should be the norm for kids. In a statement to ABC News, the American Beverage Association said that they, quote, are supporting parents who want less sugar in their kids' diets by creating more drinks than ever before with less or no sugar, as well as smaller portion sizes, and by backing efforts to make water, milk, or 100% juice the default beverages restaurants serve with children's meals, adding that today, 50% of all beverages sold contain zero sugar, as we drive toward a goal of reducing beverage calories consumed by 20% by 2025.
Yikes.
We've got, they actually did have a physical representation of how much kids drink.
Yeah.
So how does too much sugar affect
Oh my
kids?
God.
Well, first of all, this is what it looks like for the average American child, about 30 gallons of added sugar consumed in the form of beverages per year.
Whoa.
Okay. And if you go literally head to toe, Michael, we know that there is a powerful negative associated risk between too much sugar in this age group. Starts with poor dentition, so tooth decay, leads to diabetes, obesity, heart disease, and most importantly, an addictive response in the brain, Michael. The more sugar they consume, the more that area in the brain lights up, the more it makes you want to consume. Literally no different than a...
Wait for it, my friend. Wait for it in the chat room. Asking about bananas and sugar. Natural
and
sugar.
you have a degree in nutrition as well. So are all beverages that contain sugar, are they all bad?
Not exactly. So we have to remember, first of all, our high school biochemistry, our cells run on glucose, okay? But not all sugar is created equal. This advisory from the American Academy of Pediatrics and the American Heart Association was about added sugar, added to things like coffee drinks, teas, sports beverages, energy drinks. If it's coming in fresh squeezed orange juice, that's okay. And it's also not just what they're drinking, it's what they're not eating if they're getting too much sugar.
One more 33 seconds so we can talk about it.
And what can parents do to cut down on the sugary drinks? What are the alternatives?
This is the best. I want to be crystal clear. Water and milk for children under the age of 18. In terms of practical tips, and these are not official.
I don't know why it's for children under the age of 18. I would recommend water for everybody.
Everyone.
Yeah, even if you're over the age of 18, please drink water.
Scientific recommendations. These are my mom guide.
Mom
Number
guide.
one, if you're trying to taper your kid off, 5-day, 2-day. During the week, nothing. On the weekend, a little. You can dilute juice, although
What? Are you serious? What? Yeah. Just tell your kid no more soda.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Cold turkey.
Sorry. Cold turkey. I'm helping you in the long run.
Yeah.
Trust me.
You're a child.
Go look at opiates. Go look at those. Look in the long run here, kid.
The experts do not recommend this, just a little bit so their taste can get used to it. And then, all these other things, really, really important. Make the move.
Oh my goodness. Sugary drinks, added sugar, which is technically probably not good.
I feel like we've been tracking this issue too.
Yes.
Because we talked about the history, the marketing, how that kind of led
of the sugary. Yeah.
The same people that did the tobacco, they marketed all these great sugary drinks.
Yep.
Now we're hooked.
Yeah.
Now we have a problem.
Well, guess what? The tobacco advertising worked. So,
although some people say, soda isn't solely to blame, and people have been kind of tapering off their soda consumption, but we're still obese and obesity levels are rising. So there are other issues we need to look into.
Yeah.
But we also talked earlier in some other episode about how the taxation was effective at reducing soda consumption.
Yeah. And where was that at?
I think it was like the Berkeley area.
Yeah, it was the Bay Area.
Yeah, but it was looking at people of low income, I think, that they were the most impacted.
Yep.
Which I never like.
Key points from this sugary story. They called for a soda tax to raise the price of sugary drinks, similar to U.S. cities like Berkeley, California. That's not a city. Berkeley, California, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. There we go. Other recommendations include federal regulations to reduce soda ads. Well, childhood obesity rates have tripled since the 1970s. That's crazy. And yeah, here we go. Moving right along. BBC. Where am I at? This Excel spreadsheet is not the best. It's this snapping thing that we've discussed in Excel. Yeah. How many cigarettes in a bottle of wine? That is the question. Where am I at? Jeez Louise. Here we go. How many cigarettes in a bottle of wine? Sorry. UK government guidelines on alcohol consumption advise men and women to drink no more than 14 units of alcohol a week, the equivalent of 6 pints of average strength beer or 7 glasses of wine. And there was a study and a lot of stuff. What do you think?
Well, I think half of this study was just to try to relate it to cigarettes because people, drinking is very socially acceptable. Mm-hmm. But if you say, oh, this is comparable to a cigarette, now people are suddenly, oh my God, I wouldn't smoke a cigarette. And there was a risk, at least that they found, that if in men it raised your risk of cancer 1%, and women 1.4%. But for drinking 1 bottle of wine per week.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the people that I know that do drink a lot more than that. When I used to drink, I probably drank more than that. Now I don't drink.
Yeah, we don't drink anymore.
HealthyTalkShow.com/support. Still entertaining.
I don't like that alcohol is so well accepted when there's stigmas around other things. Cigarettes, marijuana, just lump them. They're all... Why does alcohol get this free pass? I don't understand.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just...
It's true.
Yeah, these people... Alcohol, I've seen alcohol destroy lives.
Yeah.
Never seen marijuana destroy a life. That's all I'm going to say. Inverse, synthetic... I'm going to mispronounce it. Do you know how to say that? Arcarel? Yeah. Arcarel promises to make you drunk without the hangover. Daily Mail, synthetic alcohol that gets you drunk without the hangover. Cool. In an interview published Tuesday in The Guardian, Professor David Nutt explains that Arcarel is intended to induce that tipsy social feeling you can get from drinking alcohol without the ensuing pain and health problems. The goal for the drink companies is to eventually incorporate Arcarel into their products, creating an alternative option to alcoholic drinks. In that scenario, Arcarel would be regulated as a food additive, while Arcarel is the name of the synthetic alcohol. Its active ingredient is an alcohol replacement molecule dubbed Alcosynth. Nutt and colleagues have been creating Alcosynth for years. It targets parts of the brain to make consumers feel tipsy but not nauseous. Team also says it won't be toxic to the liver like alcohol is. Experts believe it will be a hit with the younger generation who are drinking less. What do you think about this?
Well, I can't say anything until they release what it is, because of course they couldn't say what exactly what the molecule was. It couldn't provide a structure. It's all under wraps. But the thing that I did find interesting is that he kind of rated the different drugs and put that alcohol had a high maximum harm score.
Mm-hmm.
So 72 comparing to heroin. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. 70, yeah. It's got a higher harm score, whatever that means.
Yeah.
I saw that too. What the hell is a harm score?
So interesting, but you know.
Yep. In the chat, someone said, I'm sober, never drink. Yep. Don't drink. Someone in the chat said they're not going to drink. Don't drink. I agree. And the person who said, I have no friends, so drinking is essential. I'll be your friend. Hit me up, ask@healthytalkshow.com. I don't have a job. Moving on.
Switching to other drugs that we do like on this show.
Well, Science Daily. Patients with or without cancer use different forms of marijuana, study finds. In a report published in the Journal of Palliative Medicine on March 26, researchers say that cancer patients were more likely to favor forms of medical marijuana with higher amounts of THC, which relieves cancer symptoms and the side effects of cancer treatment, including chronic pain, weight loss, and nausea. By contrast, marijuana formulations higher in CBD, which has been shown to reduce seizures and inflammation. Other studies were more popular among non-cancer patients, including those with epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, says the study authors. Cancer patients are also more likely to prefer taking oil droplets containing medical marijuana under the tongue than vaping. That's good. Don't vape. Vaping is not good. Not a fan of vaping. What do you think?
Yeah. I think this is a pretty interesting study.
Yep.
I think now we can kind of start looking into further studies and comparing the ratios of CBD to THC.
Mm-hmm.
And we really need to do more research in this area.
I am volunteering right now as a research. I will.
You'll sacrifice yourself
in
for
that
science?
research. I will sign myself up for science.
Perfect.
Whatever you need me to smoke, let me know.
HealthyTalkShow.com.
Do we want to go into that poster? I'm really upset about that poster.
Let's just show the poster.
I cut out the printed stuff.
Okay.
So, as you can see, I cut out. Okay. So we live next to a college campus, and I saw this poster manufactured by the college. So this is a professionally printed code that they printed, and it says, get the facts on marijuana. It's illegal on campus. It's illegal if you're younger than 21. It impairs your memory and ability to learn. California laws changed. Know how it affects you. Okay, that's fine. I'm not even going to dispute that. That's fine. People do whatever. Again, back to the stigmas around marijuana. But there's nothing about Adderall, and there's nothing about cocaine, and those are the two things that I've been talking to these students. That is prevalent.
Yeah,
Adderall is everywhere, and cocaine is not far behind. But these schools, they don't know what's going on in their own backyard. You're really worried about pot, really?
Not to mention alcohol and all the dangers that alcohol brings. I think there's been some alcohol-related, deaths in the news recently on college campuses.
Yes.
So,
well, especially the college we live next to, they throw parties for their students, and the students pregame, and then they have to go. Emergency services have to go into the party and get the. It's bad.
And then they got to take coke to study and
catch
up.
They don't know what the kids are doing, and we're posting anti-marijuana posters. Are you serious? That's highly offensive.
Bring awareness to all drugs and the harmful effects.
Yeah, exactly. And Adderall and cocaine with the fentanyl. Bring back the fentanyl. Come on, these college kids. I keep telling them, stop. Just come to Robert.
HealthyDocShow.com.
Gizmodo. Why increase pot use in Colorado is sending more people to the hospital. About 10% of cannabis-related ED visits were associated with edible forms of weeds, but only 0.32% of total cannabis sales were for edible products. The author said, Associate Professor of Emergency Medicine and Emergency Toxicology at the University of Colorado School of Medicine. That's 33 times higher than what we expected. Edibles also seem to cause more serious side effects. 18% of visits related to edibles featuring acute psychiatric symptoms, including panic attacks or bouts of psychosis, compared to 10% of visits for inhaled cannabis. Edibles are... What's going on with the edibles, Marissa?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Guess essentially because edibles only make up 0.3%, they're saying you'd only expect 0.3% of all hospital visits to be related to edibles. But they kind of mentioned some things about tourism. So maybe tourists come to Colorado, they don't have any experience with marijuana. Then they take these edibles, and of course the study goes into the onset time, and it takes I think about 4 hours or so to fully make it through your system. And so people don't give their body enough time, overdose, they don't understand the dosing.
Yes.
So, with anything, education is always needed.
Edibles are interesting because you don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying stay away from edibles. I'm just saying be safe. Like you were saying, education is very important.
You don't want to go gung ho the first time you try anything. And I think we've said this before.
I did.
It's all about the dosage. Right? The dosage is what makes the poison.
Everything in moderation too.
Yeah.
Talking
about. You can pull up my screen too for a second. So another thing that isn't really deconvoluted. So here's that cannabinoid hypermeresis syndrome that we kind of mentioned.
Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, so that accounted for 17% of the total visits, but maybe they were mixing it with other drugs. They also had...
That is popping up, though. That cannabinoid hypertension syndrome is starting to pop up now. Now that it has a name, I'm starting to see it a lot.
Yeah, well, don't eat a whole bunch of edibles.
I'm scared.
But then there's also a lot of psychiatric symptoms, so maybe these people already had some sort of mental illnesses, and then they got too high, had some issues, were concerned. So take it easy.
Take it easy.
Microdose.
This is interesting from the chat. I proposed a research project at my institution to look at the diversion market for ADHD medications and where they'd obeyed economic laws. But they said no because it would make a student body look like drug addicts. So they definitely know. Okay, good.
So they know, but then they're not talking about it.
They don't care. I'll volunteer. I'll help these kids. I'll help these kids out. I'll get them off the coke. You give me a couple pounds of marijuana. Come on, kids. Come on over. Throw it all over. Go to these dorm parties. What? A poster's not going to work.
Oh, dear.
I'm sorry. BBC, the woman who feels no pain. Oh, and I launched the incorrect application. Hold on. Sorry. And we also have a few news stories. CNN, woman who feels no pain, could help scientists develop painkillers. New York Times, at 71, she's never felt pain or anxiety. Now scientists know why. Back to that. The woman who cannot feel pain. New York Times, how pain, tolerance, and anxiety seem to be connected.
I only know this in retrospect because I didn't realize at the time, but breaking my arm at the age of 8 and not realizing it until my mother, 2 days later, my mother found that my arm was a peculiar color and a peculiar shape. Having a huge baked potato burst in my face and not realizing that I'd done much damage. Backpacking in Eastern Europe, tripping over with a rucksack on my back and falling into a concrete bollard and losing my front teeth and damaging my face and not feeling any pain with that. I felt stupid and looked awful, but I didn't feel any pain. Childbirth, I just went through childbirth expecting to feel pain. In my head saying, when it gets painful, whatever pain is, whenever it's painful, I'll ask for it. The painkiller, but didn't need it. After my hand operations, I didn't have any painkillers then when I was told it would be extremely painful. And lots of minor things. I burned myself, I cut myself. And I just thought I was incredibly clumsy. I know this is going to sound stupid, but when we're gardening, I love pulling up nettles, stinging nettles. I love the feeling in my hands. It's a tickly feeling in my hand.
Oh, man.
It's a joke now, but I don't wear gardening gloves because I enjoy that feeling. Everyday things, I'm ironing, and quite often I'm sort of ironing away, and suddenly find I've ironed my arm. And it's only when I see afterwards a sort of mark down there that I realise I've ironed my arm. So just everyday things that are just... But they're normal to me, you see, so they don't seem strange. It's how I've always been. It's only when people point out it might be peculiar that I realise I am peculiar. But...
Wow.
Yeah.
And the chat brings up a good point. Pain helps you live, though. That's true. Because it knows when you need to get away from a situation.
Yeah.
How do you happen to know how this is possible?
I do. So we can go into the studies. So
okay, your screen.
Yeah. Well, it happened because the patient had this osteoarthritis of the hip, and she reported it as painless. But then when they looked at it and examined, they saw that the severe degree of joint degeneration was not representative of the amount of pain that she was feeling. So then they later found out that she's missing this enzyme FAAH. And so this is a critical enzyme for the breakdown of a range of bioactive lipids. But basically what this means is she's unable to break down some of these amines in the body. And then once this happens, so they found this in mouse models too, that they have accelerated skin wound healing, enhanced fear extinction memory, reduced anxiety, and short-term memory deficits. So this was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And she was really sensitive to opioids, so I think she took morphine at some point and vomited a lot. And they noticed that here. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
She doesn't need painkillers.
Yeah, so basically they're trying to study exactly the mechanism of this and then maybe either develop drugs or something. So pretty interesting. So this is due to the ability of FAH to regulate nociception. And that's just your sensory nervous system, essentially.
Wow.
So pretty crazy.
She's unique.
Yeah. And so they did find this to be genetic as well. I think her son has not quite the same extreme, but some sort of high pain tolerance. Cool. Or, you could CRISPR yourself. So genetically modify yourself to not have this. But yeah, pain probably is good in some ways.
Yes. Science Daily, a new model to trial preventative treatments for schizophrenia. Neuroscientists at the University of Queensland had developed a new animal model for schizophrenia that will enable researchers around the world to better understand the disease and develop new treatments. Schizophrenia, which affects around 7 people in 1,000, is a poorly understood group of medical disorders that disrupt cognition and behavior. Common hallmarks include delusions, hallucinations, and difficulty perceiving reality. The precise neurological cause of schizophrenia is unknown, and the development of better treatments are urgently needed. This research will provide the model to begin address some of the underlying fundamental mechanisms involved. What scientists do know is that schizophrenia is associated with the pronounced change in the way the brain uses dopamine, the neurotransmitter often referred to as the brain's reward molecule. Interesting.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
Got another one, Science Daily, schizophrenia, 30 genes under suspicion. The research team led by Professor Alex Scheer, director of Biozentrum, University of Basel, and currently group leader of Harvard University in Cambridge, investigated a total of 132 genes associated with schizophrenia. The potential connection to schizophrenia was confirmed for 30 genes. In zebrafish, the researchers found that errors in these genes impaired the development and function of the brain and led to behavioral abnormalities.
So this could be pretty interesting. Hopefully, we kind of can take these two studies.
Yep.
And figure out exactly the mechanism better. But.
Yep. CNN. Psychosis in teens may be linked to an unlikely culprit, air pollution. Daily Mail, does pollution cause psychosis? New York Times, air pollution tied to mental health issues in teenagers. BBC, city air pollution linked to teenage psychotic experiences. Explored. A study published in JAMA, Psychiatry included 2,063 British teenagers whose health had been followed from birth through age 18. Almost a third of them said that they had at least one psychotic experience, ranging from mild feeling of paranoia to severe psychotic syndrome since age 12. Researchers linked air pollution data to locations where they spent most of the time, at home, school, or work. What do you think?
It wasn't,
everyone picked up on it.
Yeah, I thought it was weird that everyone picked up on it, but again, it's just an association. There could be so many other factors with just city life. Maybe there's something else going on. Other factors, maybe they have increased use of technology. There could be so many factors.
So it might not just be pollution or...
Yeah, it could be anything that's with city life, or it could be...
City life will make anyone go crazy.
Or just think of how much light pollution you get in the city. Maybe they're not sleeping well. You don't sleep.
Yeah.
Make you crazy.
Yep.
And of course, another downfall of this study, like we mentioned earlier, this was only looked at people in England and Wales.
Oh, no.
So, lack of genetic diversity.
Dang it. Crap. CNN, safety watchdog questions FDA's approval of Parkinson's psychosis drug. This is weird. This is hard to explain. A drug safety watchdog has renewed its criticism of the government's approval of Parkinson's psychosis medication and is calling for stronger warnings on its label for patients and their families. Deemed a breakthrough medication, I don't know how to say that word, Nuplazid, received an expedited review and was approved by the FDA in 2016. The agency ruled that the potential benefits for a desperate patient population outweighed its risk, making it the only drug in the market approved to combat hallucinations and delusions in Parkinson's patients. And this watchdog group is saying that they're not taking the Yeah, on Wednesday by a team of medical research safety experts and doctors at the nonprofit Institute of Safe Medical Practices, or ISMP, said that their underlying documents from the FDA's evaluation leave a number of questions about the drug's safety unanswered. As a result, the Institute said it does not believe the reassurances from the FDA was warranted because this has been reinvestigated now because they're getting a lot of complaints. This is very complicated.
Yeah. I mean, so part of the difficulties of this is I don't believe there are any FDA-approved drugs.
Yeah, so there's no other alternative.
Yeah. And then another difficulty with this study is that a lot of these patients are nearing the end of their life. So it may not be quite clear how many of them were going to die anyway. They did find that I think you were 2.4 times more likely to die like during the study if you were on the medication versus a placebo, but it wasn't a very large study.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the criticisms were that it only had very moderate changes, so maybe the benefits did not really outweigh the risks. But, you know, again, it's a really tough topic because there aren't really a lot of alternatives.
Yeah, it's either take this or take nothing.
Yeah, and either way, you're going to go crazy.
Yeah.
So you're just trying to stave this off, and I don't know. But I do understand why people are concerned. Maybe it was rushed. And this is kind of what we've been seeing before, that maybe, you know, these drugs are rushed to market. Maybe people don't fully understand the consequences. So
yeah, and we need to push these drug makers and let them know that we're on them and we're here. And because just like the Sacklers. And all right. CNN, FDA proposes change to mammography standards for the first time in more than 20 years. Mammogram centers must tell women if they have dense breast, FDA proposes. According to the New York Times, centers that provide mammograms to screen breast cancer will have to tell women whether they have dense breast tissue, which can increase the risk of cancer and mass tumors, the FDA announced on Wednesday. We have a clip from CNN on this. I think we have a clip from CNN. We'll see.
Now, so talk us through, Jacqueline, these new guidelines.
Right. So these new guidelines basically center around better detecting breast cancer in women with dense breasts. So more than half of women over the age of 40 have dense breasts, and the FDA is now proposing for medical facilities where mammograms are performed to inform women of their breast density, because that can play a role in your mammogram screening and that can play a role in your overall cancer risk.
Okay, so
cool. And then the next clip follow up. How does having dense breasts change things? Because I was not aware of any of this.
Breast density basically refers to the amount of dense tissues in your breast, and that's relative to fatty tissues. So sometimes dense tissues can obscure signs of cancer in your mammogram, and that's why it's important for you to be knowledgeable of what your breast density looks like.
So if you go in for a mammogram and you do have dense breasts, do you then have to, or should you expect to have further testing? Should they do something that's a little more intense?
You know, sometimes for women with dense breasts, your doctor might recommend additional testing. And if you're concerned about the cost of additional testing, many states require for insurance to cover additional tests for women with dense breasts. So that might come up. But overall, with these new FDA proposals, this is the perfect time to talk to your doctor about your breast density and what that means for your breast health.
Okay.
It's pretty optimistic.
Yeah.
I have one more. Covered by who?
Oh. Exactly. And it's really a state-by-state situation right now. So that's why, you know, for you, it's important to look at what options are available for you. And
wait. That's fine. I don't like that clip. I don't know why I clipped that one. Yes. So that's good.
Yeah. Talk to your doctor.
Talk to your doctor.
You know, as long as additional testing is covered, that was my main concern.
Expensive. Testing is so expensive. Remember they wouldn't give me an MRI for my shoulder?
I know.
Because it's too expensive and it was too quick.
Hey, if you got dense breasts, you need it.
Oh, well, closing out the headlines today before we might go into Seattle is dying. Although in the chat, someone's asked, saying, man, you guys are running really long. We're at 1 hour and 40 right now. New York Times. Where is it at? Chihuahuas. Hi, caramba. I don't even have it, do I? Hi, caramba. I forgot the link. Never mind. I don't have the link.
Oh, man.
Yeah, what the hell happened? Yep. so that's okay. We're just talking about the Impossible Whopper. I guess Burger King.
We can at least read the headlines.
Yeah.
Behold, the beefless Impossible Whopper.
White Castle sold a cider version of Impossible Burger for a while, and I lost all my story. I don't know what the hell happened at the end of this spreadsheet. That's
has
kinda
sold
weird.
a slider version
Oh, there
of
it
the
is.
Impossible Burger in its 380 or so stores since late last year. But a national rollout at Burger King's 7,200 locations would dwarf those previous announcements and more than double the total number of locations where Impossible Burgers are available. Thought that was pretty interesting for our vegan friends out there.
Yes. The Impossible meat is now making its way to Burger King. It's going to be a huge rollout. So it's coming.
I know Del Taco's been doing vegan meat. Somebody else, wasn't it Carl's Jr. rolled out with the Impossible
the
Burger?
competitor, I think. Because there's two different kinds of the fake burger, fake meat.
They did the Beyond
Yes,
one?
they did the Beyond one. Exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely. Yes.
I can't keep track.
Are we going to roll into Seattle is Dying? I think we should. It's going to make a long show, but I think we should.
So we could make like an official pause or something.
You want to pause it?
Or we could end the podcast and then do like a special episode.
No. What?
Okay.
Okay, we're rolling into Seattle is Dying. I'm not going to ask you production questions anymore. That was a horrible. What the heck?
You said to pause it.
No, I did not say that. Roll back the tape. What did I say?
All right, moving forward.
Yeah. All right. So, Como News, Seattle is Dying. This is a documentary about the homeless issues taking place in Seattle right now. It's very heavy-handed, and it kind of pushes the narrative. What's the narrative? That homeless people need our help. They're drug addicts. This is just from the documentary. This is what the documentary generally says. It says a lot nicer, but it says we need to help people. So let's take a look. And this documentary, I actually put the annoying music in here just so we can listen. This music plays. It's always a transition. Whenever there's B-roll, this music plays. Scary music. Very dramatic. Oh no.
All right, who has anxiety now?
I don't know. Here we go. I left it in. This one on purpose. It's a clip.
This is a list of familiar faces, repeat offenders, people who break the laws, get caught, get released, and break the laws again and again and again. There are 100 names on the list. Scott Lindsay is the man who dived into public records and researched the list.
If we take somebody into the jail, don't give them meaningful help, and then put them right back out on the streets, we know they're going to commit the same crimes in the same places. And our public records, our criminal justice records, really show that that's exactly what's happening.
Look at the sheer volume of criminal cases. Calvin A., 68 criminal cases since 2002, repeated random assaults on random individuals. Drainen B., 54 criminal cases since 2016. Michelle C., 72 cases since 2000. And the list goes on and on. Seattle's mayor says this.
It is wrong to conflate homelessness with a rise in crime.
For at least 100...
Well, yeah. If you just take that statement, that is a true statement.
Yeah.
What she said is wrong to conflate the two. That's true.
100 people, it would at the very least appear to be a factor.
Of the 100 that you looked at, what percentage of them were homeless?
Yeah, from our criminal justice records, 100% had indicators that they were currently homeless.
And what percent showed signs of addiction?
Yeah, 100% also showed signs of a substance use disorder.
And what percent were mentally ill?
Yeah, a little less than half had been evaluated by the courts formally for mental health conditions, serious, severe mental health conditions.
On average, the people on the list had 36 criminal cases each in the state of Washington and 7 jail bookings in the last year.
What this report also shows is that the police are working hard. They're making contacts, they're making arrests for criminal behaviors of, again, the same people in the same places over and over and over. What I think we need to focus on is what is our criminal justice system doing to support those police officers.
The 100 names had between them more than 3,600 criminal cases. For the most part, few have done serious time, They are out in our communities, walking our streets. The drain on the system, the drain on resources and manpower is incalculable.
The fact that this system could go on with, in effect, 100% failure rate for so long without anybody raising questions, without city council hosting hearings, without any action being taken, is something that it's hard for me to explain. It's
a point. I like in the chat room how they're pointing out in the video that they just video recorded the screen instead of some kind of capture. I don't know. I think it's for dramatic effect to have those lines in it, to be honest with you.
Plus the music is done. The doom is coming.
Yes. All right. I have comments from an ex-cop from Seattle is Dying. And they try to make, this is funny. This is the kind of cop you want.
It was just
pretty funny.
The bureaucracy built up to the point where I felt like I was no longer necessary as a police officer, that the system had a different idea of how they wanted to handle it, and I was an appendix. I needed to be gone, so I'm gone.
Ask anyone. They'll tell you this was a good cop, the kind we want out there, the kind we need.
But I will tell you that there is no morale. There's a love for the job.
He says the drugs, the camps, the theft, the rot, and the disgrace of it all don't have to destroy Seattle. They're being allowed to.
Everybody's trying to do the right thing. It's just coming out wrong.
Listen to these next words carefully.
Okay, I'm going to listen to them very carefully.
Let them sink in.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that the only thing I can equate it to is we're running a concentration camp without barbed wire, up to and including the medical experiment of poisoning these people with drugs. I don't know how else to put it, and it's infuriating. Every camp I walk into, there was a weapon, multiple weapons. I found modified weapons. I was constantly on the side of the road talking to people that were swinging machetes, holding an axe, armed with knives. Our city has even gone so far as to say, well, this much of narcotics on your person's okay.
3 grams.
Yeah, hey, that's okay. So that's user quantity. So, when you start, that process and people feel secure and okay having their drugs on them, what's to stop them from doing it? How do you, now you're pretty much okaying narcotics, and the same officers that used to go out there and arrest them are now rendered impotent and can't do anything about it. And it's just a matter of political will on the part of our city to go out there and say, hey, you can't park your motorhome in this driveway with no engine in it, with all this filth around it. You can't do it. It's wrong. And stop them.
Stop them. Just stop them. Put the stop on it. Throw the cuffs on. The first half of this documentary is very, put the cuffs on them. But don't worry. We got one more.
They do blame marijuana, too.
Yes. And I actually took that out. They do blame, but they don't. And I took that out. I couldn't. I actually have.
I wanted to mention it only because.
Let's go into the reports and prosecution stats.
A report received is when police file a report of a case requesting that the city attorney's office file charges on behalf of the city. Back in 2006, for every 100 reports received, 25 of them didn't get filed. How times have changed. In 2016, the latest data we have, for every 100 police reports, 46 of them, almost twice as many, didn't get filed. Nothing happened at all. They were completely ignored. Of the remaining 54 of the original 100, 1/3 of them were then outright dismissed, thrown out. Another third were listed as other, with no resolution. So only 18 of the original 100 reports filed by police actually result in convictions. 18. And of those 18 convictions, after plea deals and lenient sentences, very few cases end up with anyone really being held accountable. Those are 2016 numbers. We have no reason to believe the trends haven't continued since then.
Well, it's logical. There it goes. Ding, ding, ding. I left it in there on purpose every now and then just because it's so obnoxious. So that's the front of the document. It's the first 30 minutes or so. It's the first half. All homeless people got to enforce the laws, blah, 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 which that can be, people are debating that. We have these debates going on across the country, and yeah, it is what it is. But let's learn about the MAT program in Rhode Island.
Question of our time.
I've wanted this program basically since the day I started.
Dr. Jennifer Clark is the head of what is referred to back east as the MAT program, medication-assisted treatment.
We can't just ignore our way out of this. We can't arrest our way out of this. People are dying, and there's something we can do to stop that.
It starts out here, really, because the first thing that they do in Rhode Island is enforce their laws. Drug dealers and the people who steal and commit crime to get their drugs eventually end up in this place, the Rhode Island Department of Corrections. It's not a nice place. It's a prison. But inside the walls, something amazing happens. Every day, the inmates who are in the MAT program line up and they take their medicine. There are 3 opiate blockers that work: methadone, Suboxone, and Vivitrol. They are FDA approved. They get people off heroin. They save lives. Prisoners who enter the program choose which medicine they want.
And then MAT coaching.
Inside the prison, inside the MAT program, the inmates have counselors. There are one-on-one meetings with recovery coaches and group meetings as well. They hit addiction with every tool they can throw at it.
And the recovery coaches come in and meet with anyone who's willing and interested in meeting with them so that they can develop a relationship with them on the inside and then have that relationship sustained on the outside.
Now, it almost sounds like they're actually trying rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Which is something that you're supposed to do when you're... That's kind of the point of going away, is to come out a better person. You know, oh, you did bad, now you're going to come out a better person. But instead, we have the prison industrial complex with privatized prisons and prison, for profit, that kind of thing. You don't want to help people. Oh, man. All right. MAT after release.
It's important to understand that the genius of what they're doing in Rhode Island isn't just that there is full drug treatment inside the prison walls. The genius is what happens when the inmates leave.
Priority number 1 being, how are they going to continue their medication?
The minute someone shows up in a program in the community, they have to be registered in that database, so we know if they're showing up or not.
Are the numbers going up?
The figure that I saw yesterday was 93% of the people who leave here on MAT are following up in the community. That's amazing.
93%?
93% are following.
That's unheard of. 93%?
Yeah, that's great.
I'd like, I don't know, but 93% is a little high.
Hey,
that's a really high number. 93%. All right, one last one. Seattle is dying. Kodak centers. This is how, after you get out, you go to these centers and you have access to what you need.
This is a Kodak center. They are sprinkled throughout Rhode Island. There are 7 of them in Providence alone.
Once you come into the Department of Corrections and are medicated under methadone or Suboxone or Vivitrol, you become a Kodak patient. You have a patient ID number in our system, and our agencies throughout Rhode Island are all connected.
Former inmates or anyone else in the program show up anytime, any day.
Take-home bottles, so those will be filled.
And they get their medication. No red tape, no questions asked, no doctor's appointments, no vouchers. They're in the system. They get their meds. It's that.
Yeah, it's a pretty efficient system.
Yeah.
It works. It's very interesting. What do you think?
I mean, there's a lot of issues.
Yeah.
So I think one big thing is a lot of these homeless are mentally ill, and then they get hooked on drugs, or maybe vice versa. It's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg. Those two issues are very intertwined.
They complement each other. And
yeah.
Yeah.
And another issue too, so I did look up like whether marijuana was to blame, and some studies showed that irregardless of whether marijuana was legal or not, a lot of these West Coast places, so anywhere where the climate is favorable, they're having this issue of homelessness. And it started even before marijuana was legalized.
Yeah, of course. Well, I actually pulled up because the documentary kept saying marijuana as an issue. It did not bring up alcohol. So this is 2017 drug trends in King County, Washington. Kind of confusing. It says marijuana calls the state. 2017 439. It's quite a lot. 239 calls for cocaine. But then if you go down to this graph here, figure 1, recovery helpline calls from King County, which is the highest bar up there. Alcohol.
Alcohol.
So I don't know. But the documentary never mentioned, I don't think ever mentioned alcohol. I was listening for it, but it mentioned marijuana quite a bit. I'm very sensitive to that.
Yeah. And then what's also interesting too is just how expensive alcohol is in Seattle.
Yes, that was another thing, because I was thinking taxation. So alcohol tax in Seattle or Washington is quite expensive. $14.27 a gallon? What?
Jeez.
That's how much alcohol is, and it's quite expensive. It's the first highest in the nation. When I went there, I remember paying, it was crazy expensive.
Yeah.
So there it is. And same thing with actually cigarettes. If you go here, Washington, where am I looking at? Oh yeah, right here. Yep, up the top, duh. Right there. Average cost per pack, $8.05. Compare that to California, which we have high taxes and everything. It's only $5.53 average cost per pack. So Washington has California beat on taxes, and the logic is tax bad behavior, that kind of thing. I've talked to a lot of people, and that's the mentality in that city, is tax bad behavior.
I think the documentary did mention that one dose of heroin or something was only $10. So.
Yeah.
If you make the legal stuff expensive, people might turn to the cheaper street drugs.
The documentary also brought up, and I'm not going to play any audio, I'm just going to show the video, McNeil Island, and it didn't actually give any context. It just said, wouldn't this be a nice place to help people? But it's empty. McNeil Island is an island in the northwest United States in the South Puget Sound, located southwest of Tacoma, Washington, with a land area of 6.63 square miles. The island has been owned by the government for most of its history. It was a federal penitentiary from 1875 to 1981. It was turned over to Washington State Department of Corrections and became McNeil Island Correction Center until closed in 2011. It was the last island prison in the country to be accessible only by air and sea. McNeil was long threatened with closing due to high cost of operating the prison. An announcement in the late 2010 said the prison would close in 2011. The prison's remaining 500 low-risk inmates were integrated into other state prisons. The prison officially closed April 2011. And apparently someone in our chat room has been there. That's cool.
You do bring up an interesting point that why don't we have more facilities for this? I guess that one...
That's weird that they would keep low-risk inmates in an island penitentiary. That is so weird. That makes no sense to me.
It down. It was probably really expensive.
Yeah, to house 500 inmates on an island? I know.
Let's see.
Ay, caramba.
I was reading this other statistic, though. So we've been talking about how there's not enough mental institutions.
Mm-hmm.
So the number of psychiatric beds decreased 14% from 2005 to 2010. And the percentage of people with serious mental illnesses in prisons rose 0.7% to 21%.
Yeah. So we've got a problem. We have a crisis, and it's a lot of issues. Housing, accessibility, that kind of thing.
And we shut down a lot of mental institutions, but I think now there's no long-term stable place for these homeless people to go, potentially.
Nope.
And then you end up on the street, you get drugs, or maybe the drugs helped you get to the street.
And it's not a fun life.
Yeah.
But though there are some people who actually want to be homeless too.
That's
I do have
true.
to bring them up, but I would say they are few and far between.
Yeah. And that wasn't addressed in the documentary, to be fair.
They did not. The first 30 minutes were pretty slanted, but they had some interesting, but they actually got some pushback now. I was reading recently, one of the guys in the documentary said, I've been sober for 3 years. This documentary footage is old. But then he's in like one of those transitional housing things where he's trying to fight his addiction. So, come on.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little dramatic. That was kind of evident from the music.
Yeah.
Another thing that I found really interesting is they are on methadone for life. And I was kind of looking up why that was. And that was because of how addictive heroin is. Heroin is so addictive, even though these people know that it's really bad for them. It's going to ruin their life. They know the consequences, and they just...
do you know, if you're aware and knowing, do you believe?
I mean, they said that these are people that have relapsed. Like, they've been there.
Yeah.
And it's just so strong.
Yep.
So.
Ready to close out the show?
Believe so.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. If you found value and useful information, please support the show by emailing us, ask@healthytalkshow.com. Leave us a voicemail, 509-878-3229, or supporting us financially at healthytalkshow.com/support. We love to hear from you. Thanks again. Love and light.
Love and light.